Okay. We're preparing to live stream it now. So okay, we are live, Derek. It says it's now streaming live on YouTube. Hi, I'm John from Broadsheet.ie. You're welcome to Tomorrow Tonight. We're very honoured to have Derek Mooney, Public Affairs spokesman, our consultant, Broadsheet columnist, and Yes Minister fan. Derek, good evening.
How are you? You well?
Very well. Derek has got a column in today's on the site today concerning Helen McEntee and whether she can fill the boots filled by Morgan Quinn and Nora Owen.
Which route does she want to go? Is she going to be? Is she going to get a control of events, or is she going to be buffeted by them? I think the jury's still out, but some early signs are not great. But
okay,
again,
more go. You want her to be more go than.
I think it is. I think she has all the skill set, all the ability, all the outlook to be quite a good Minister for Justice. But what's happening is so far that she just seems to be a bit slow to react. It's an awful department, not an awful department, it's a difficult department to manage. You have to have a very, very strong political will to manage the Department of Justice. It's the one department, with the exception of Finance and Taoiseach, that has only, technically hasn't been there from the start. Taoiseach wasn't, but in terms of it's been there since the day one as Home Affairs and Justice. The department has a very, very strong view of its own role in the state in terms of security, etc. Tends to be conservative, tends to be slow moving, really has top grade civil servants, but you have to have a fair amount of political clout, and I just think it's time that Helen McEntee started showing that.
Okay, and you singled out the Wolf thing as being a
Wolf. I think Wolf kind of damaged her coming out of the gate, to use that phrase, which wasn't of her making. And I think Varadkar kind of landed her with that one, and you could see that they landed her with that, then tried to protect her from it by not letting it go out there, and that did her damage because there was a perception that she was avoiding commenting on this.
Yeah.
But it's more so the knife crime, bike crime, the issue over naming of children in murder, or the accused in murder cases, etc., where there's a lot of private members' legislation sitting there for the taking.
Yeah,
it might take 3 or 4 months to argue this through. And
well, you answer that for me, Derek. Why isn't it?
I don't know. I think the problem is because the Department of Justice tends to move very, very slowly, and we go in and say, listen, there's a private member's bill here. Their attitude is going to be, well, look, we didn't generate that, so it's not sound enough. Rather than, look, the way legislation is produced is you produce it at second stage and it's amended. And it would have to be amended, not quite on the hoof, but it would be amended as it proceeds through. And I just wonder why this process wasn't started last November, why they were not now at the second or third stage or fourth stage of legislation to have it passed in the next couple of weeks. And what will happen is that it now looks like she's going to take the Michael McDowell bill, come in with a couple of amendments and try and rush it through. And you kind of go, like, this isn't the way to do it. And there's a better way of doing it. We'll have the same thing on knife crime. There's a private member's bill that's been sitting there since 2019, which is increasing the penalties, increasing the fines for carrying a knife. And like these are current issues, and there are issues that didn't just arise in the last couple of weeks. They've been knocking around for a while, but possibly it's part of the pandemic. Maybe it's this pent up.
Well, the anonymity or giving the not naming the children that was spotted from legislation from the 2001, wasn't it?
It is. It's been bad about it. But I think the actual court case, there was a court case come up where there was a judge had given a ruling, giving their interpretation, which caught everyone off guard. I think that was late last autumn. And what happened, so that there were 2 pieces of private legislation, two private members' bills were put together, one from Jim McCallaghan, one from Michael McDowell, one in the Dáil, one in the Senate. They both take slightly different approaches. So I mean, it's not that they're identical bills; they both take a slightly different approach to this. But that's been sitting there since the last week in October, the first week in November.
Okay, well, it sounds
make a move.
Yeah, even Nora Owen would have got her finger out in terms of the anonymity.
Nora Owen, I mean, like the Criminal Assets Bureau, which is Nora Owen's big achievement, was a John O'Donoghue piece of legislation that was drafted, which she took, and it's now become part of her record.
Yeah, I think it was
rightly so, because the bill that it was the late it was John Hannafin. It was Mary Hannafin's husband who actually had drafted it, the late husband, and had done it for John O'Donoghue. And it was a comprehensive piece of legislation. It still needed some amendment, but the government very quickly grasped it in the aftermath of the killing of Veronica Guerin.
Right. Okay. I didn't know they adopted O'Donoghue's. I didn't know.
It was originally John O'Donoghue's bail. Yeah,
Okay.
It had been produced as a private member's bail. Now it was considerably expanded upon, but it was a John O'Donoghue bill originally.
Okay. So this is the column today. Sorry. There was a quote I wanted to. 38 people to hold the office, Minister for Justice office, only of the past.
Oh yeah.
Only one has gone on to become Taoiseach afterwards, Charlie Haughey. And one has ended up in Mountjoy, Ray Burke.
So you have the same odds of becoming Taoiseach as you have of ending up in Mountjoy as a Justice Minister.
That's
there's a certain no pun intended justice in that.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to go through tomorrow's papers, which are extremely depressing.
Yeah.
Second. Sorry about this. I'm just trying to get a good view for you, Derek.
No problem.
How's everything for Spain? Is good. I mean, you're
again, which is they've tightened the lockdown there. They were allowing outdoor dining until about 2 weeks ago. They've now cut down on that, so it's takeaways only. But look, people, I told the story several times, which is that there is a genuine belief that if you transgress, you're going to get caught. And everyone tells a story of knowing this woman who only went out to put the bins out and didn't wear a mask, and the police nabbed her. And they took her to the local ATM and she was fined 75 or 120 or 250 or 300 euros, depending who you talk to. Nobody remembers where the woman is exactly from. But there is this thing now entered into the ether that people believe you don't go out without a mask, you socially distance, you are very careful, and that's it. But now, Spanish police, I was going to say don't take prisoners. I don't mean that too literally, but particularly the Guardia Civil, they don't mess with them.
No, they don't. They don't.
Yeah, they don't mess with them.
Any word on when you can get over there?
I honestly don't know. Is the truthful answer. Okay. I'm hoping my mother is vaccinated sometime before the end of February in Spain, because she's in the over 80s category and she has a health condition, so that should see her on a priority list. And I know they haven't given a date yet, but they've actually contacted and said that they will be contacting her soon to arrange her vaccination. So
okay,
that's positive.
That is great, Derek. The Irish Examiner doubts over building sector.
This is an initial which is this seems to be stemming from a couple of comments that were made, including possibly this on Morning Ireland this morning from Darragh O'Brien, that they were hoping to get the building sector reopened in the 3rd of March. Now, I don't think there's anything big shock on that. I think people would have been expecting if they were in lockdown till the 3rd of March, nobody's expecting some massive opening up, but they're expecting that there'll be some easing of the restrictions. The hope, I'm sure, would be to get some schools back, and maybe to get the building, which had been open for a lot of the previous lockdowns. But there seems to be at the Department of Health, the NEFIT briefing this evening, that seemed to be some kind of suggestion that mightn't be the case. I think, quite frankly, it's just basically saying, look, no decision has been made on this yet. There's no way you're going to be able to make a decision on that until we're closer to the date and we see the infection rates, we see the R numbers, we see the hospitalization rates. So the story is there, but I just think, look, it's not that shocking that people are saying, look, this is too early to be calling this.
Okay.
But again, it just tells you, look, maybe this is also part of the preparation, which is March 3rd is not going to be a big release date. It's not. Okay. We're in this.
Again, they're doing, Derek. They seem to be doing in the morning. It's March the 5th. We're opening, and then in the evening we're kind of.
I don't know. Again, which is, look, this is something we've discussed here before, which is the
good cop, bad cop.
The conflicting nature of the communication, and just the running commentary. And no, I know I do accept that. I mean, that this is that people do want some hope. People do need to be shown, look, there is a route out of this. But there are so many moving parts in this. The infection rate not coming down as quickly as originally was modelled. The rates that coming down, the influence of the new variant, the Kent variant, the slower arrival of vaccines than was originally predicted. So look, there are so many moving parts. This is a difficult one to call, but I think this morning people were saying this, and that's great. I mean, by the way, like I can't remember the number. I think I heard on news that 70,000 people on PUP from the building sector.
How many?
Yeah, so it's a large number of people who would be happy to get back to work and to get back to earning.
And yeah.
And by the way, the housing crisis still hasn't gone away.
No, indeed. And in fact, that was Darragh Brown's argument today, wasn't it? Just to get back, because we have to build houses. Gardaí interviewed an anti-corruption probe, more than 50 Gardaí in Munster, not all of them obviously been investigated, but this is something Helen McEntee needs to look at, really, the reform of the Gardaí itself.
It is. It's look. I mean, it's look. First and foremost, it is the right thing that is the Gardaí are being investigated, which is there's a time this stuff would have been swept under the carpet and not talked about. But we're talking like this has been done by what the GNI was, it the Garda National Bureau of Criminal Investigation. So this is not as a low level.
No.
But look, it's the Gardaí.
Reputation
is massively important, and like says his wife, not only should they be above suspicion, but must be seen to be above suspicion.
Okay.
So it's alleged corruption in public office. Now this follows a whole range of different models and racial types, to looking after your mates, or to squashing this, or to, as in case in some cases, is releasing material you shouldn't have released.
Yeah.
So this covers a whole multitude. So I'd wait to see what this is, but
yeah,
it doesn't. Part of it is the fact that we're talking about this and this has been reported on is a positive. The fact that it's happening at all is a big negative.
Yeah, there were things during the disclosure tribunal that that they suggested serious reform was needed in the Gardaí, and that
look, I mean, I think this is. The reason, I mean, there's been peace.
Drew hasn't done it really. He hasn't.
No, and it hasn't. Look, I mean, one of the things I think was made a couple of years ago. Point was, look, we insisted rightly that the Patent Commission be applied to the PSNI.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the Patent Commission that should have been applied down here. Answerability in particular, structures, etc. There was a lot of transparency and openness need to be there. Improved training. I made about a month ago, I made the point, which is, okay, we have a large number of police, but the number of duties we give to the Gardaí, the number of responsibilities, every legislation includes something that reverts to the Gardaí, like from certifying dead animals to national
high level intelligence is what So
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't have an intelligence service, so that's conducted by the Gardaí.
Part of MI5,
the old M2, the MG2, the old G2 in the Department of Defence, but that's external threat. So there's a lot of stuff. So what we're also seeing, which is we need spare capacity in the state. We need spare emergency capacity. The guards seem to be struggling to cope. Not least the fact that a lot of them have been impacted by COVID, that they've had a fair number of cases themselves, but they seem to be struggling. And I just think we need to have a serious reappraisal of just what numbers of Gardaí do we need? Because we seem to have a Gardaí that's very much, like, I mean, look, the best form of Gardaí, the best form of policing is that on the street, is the visible form of Gardaí. But we seem to have an awful lot of people in offices, behind the scenes, etc. And I've no doubt that they're needed there. But we got to start really appraising this. So
I think for a very law-abiding country, we have 13,000 Gardaí.
More, I think it's 14 something.
14,000.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you work that out, and many of you work out in a four shift rotation, and that's 3 shifts a day and one person who completely off. I mean, that when you start dividing it down at any one time, that's only a very small number of Gardaí.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, but I'm also saying that we're very law-abiding.
Yeah. Oh no, I know that's no. By the way, I'm not claiming we're in the middle of a crime wave. There are specific spots. Bike crime seems to be just through the roof at the moment. As I made in mind last week, cycle thefts, bicycles been stolen left, right, and centre. I was talking to a mate of mine last week whose bike was stolen from inside a locked-up cage within an underground garage. It is just incredible, and the thing pops up online, and the guards are saying, "Well, there's nothing we can really do about it." So that doesn't help either.
No, since we've started the site, we've been running, trying to get people back their bikes. It's one of those crimes. You could say, like the broken window theory in New York, that if you that crime, it'll have a knock-on effect towards other crimes. I mean, it may seem petty to the guards, but this is These are big ticket items for a lot of people.
We go back to the aforementioned John O'Donoghue, and there was much criticism at the time in 1997 when the zero tolerance. But I remember as part of the preamble to that in 1995, 1996, it wasn't Bill Bratton who was the New York Police Commissioner, but the head of police who had an Irish background.
Bradley, I think. Bradley.
No, Bill Bratton was the police commissioner in New York. It was his the chief of police. Who
Timoney?
You know, I'd make something like that. It was something like
John Timoney, no.
Don't know. No, I always get him mixed up with the fellow who designs the APCs, the armored personnel carriers, and the fire brigade. But this guy came over, and again, he just turned around and said, "Look, let's see what happened in New York." And whatever criticism there are about zero tolerance, and America is no poster boy for policing. There's still this thing about it. Look, guys, the people have to know that if a crime is pursued, if you contact the guy, there will be some follow up to that.
Yeah.
And I think go back to that story about the Examiner, where people are saying, look, there's no point in reporting it. Look, so what are they going to do? Or the lads will go to court and they'll get a slap on the wrist and they'll disappear out or whatever.
Exactly. And
no, things are far, by the way, I accept things are far more complicated than that.
On top of that, though, you have them, Gardaí, kind of upsetting the public, fining them and, upholding the COVID-19 regulations, or the COVID regulations, perhaps too assiduously.
No, I think the difficulty with it is that the actual fines come in too late, which is applying the zero tolerance approach. They should have been in early. There should have been this belief. Just don't try it because you're just going to get caught.
Okay.
And I think that's going back to that story I talked about Spain and the rest of which is everyone knows this probably fictional story about this woman only putting the bins out and having to pay a fine. But that stops everyone. That stops other people doing that. And by the way, and except 85, 90 something % of people are absolutely law abiding. There's a couple of people who, it's not that they're not law abiding, they just kind of say, I'll get away with it.
Yeah.
And you just want to kind of that. And that's what in terms of what you're seeing about house parties. If you look at during the time we were opened up, the story was that the guy who was running a bus service somewhere who got COVID, and they tracked him down and it turned out he was bringing 30 or 40 people to various house parties of a night in his bus, etc. Now, none of those people would see themselves as lawbreakers, but all see themselves as very decent, law-abiding, honourable people, and I have no doubt that they are. But they just felt it's not going to happen to us. I listened to one guy saying about how we got COVID-19 and said, look, there were 6 or 7 of us over at the house for Christmas, and look, we were all safe. None of us had COVID. Well, sorry, one of you stayed. I mean, we don't see it that way. We tend to see this as something that applies to other people. It's part of the human nature. C'est la vie.
Okay. The Irish World, Bernard Purcell's newspaper, the paper for the Irish in Britain, Ireland promises action on COVID back towards the UK. This is this issue that we discussed a couple of weeks ago regarding a lot of people coming into the north are coming through Dublin, and there needs to be a proper tracing position. I think Tony O'Brien had a really good piece in the Sunday Business Post yesterday about that, which is this isn't just an issue for the HSE and the Department of Health. This is an issue for the Department of Transport, for the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Justice. And you've got too many people who are in charge of a bit of this out in Dublin Airport, and nobody's in charge of the totality of it. And until such time as we pull that together, just Dublin Airport is going to be messy. Okay, and yet there's calls to share the UK vaccine surplus with Ireland. So
but by the time that happens, we will actually have a surplus, because what our problem is the next 3 months. From March, April, May onwards, when you have Johnson & Johnson on stream, when you have, as AstraZeneca have sorted themselves out, when Pfizer have now upped their production, this won't be as much of an issue post April, May, June, which is why I think a lot of people are going to be vaccinated in Q2. Problem is, will we be ready to do it in the numbers we need to do it at that point? I mean, the UK is now short of 15 million. Now that's one dose only. But they're not terribly far off. They're going to probably be ahead of their target by the middle of February.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay. There was something about this is the Irish World too. It's kind of a good feel good Valentine's.
We have Valentine's, yeah.
Yeah. There was a phrase, Galentine's Day is. Are you familiar with Galentine's Day? It's girls selling their girlfriends Valentine cards. It's a new a new thing. The Daily Telegraph, South African variant not likely to become dominant.
Yeah, this was the British chief medical officer earlier saying that there are occurrences of it around the place, that they believe that the Kent variant will be the dominant one in the UK, and therefore there isn't an issue for their AstraZeneca vaccine on that. South Africa, obviously South Africa, the South African strain is the dominant one, and that's become a huge issue where they seem to be basically revisiting their rollout. Now, people who know better about these things, just as another say, look, there is not a great difficulty in reworking the vaccines and probably all of us will need, if we get the vaccine in June, July, August, September, whatever it is, either next Christmas, next January, February, we'll all probably need a booster for whatever variants have come out at that point. And that's probably the future for the next 5, 10, 15 years, that we'll be getting various booster shots.
Okay. How does that make you feel, Derek?
Well, the problem is I'm heading towards the age where I'm going to need shots for everything anyway. So I mean, quite frankly, it's not. I'm kind of getting used to it. This year was the first year that I seriously considered getting the flu shot. Now I haven't had the flu in a long time, but like it turned out it wasn't really necessary, and part of it you couldn't get it. But look, I think that is something we're going to need. If it's 1 shot, 2 shots, whatever it is a year, that they can live with that. But it's just part of the new. We keep talking about this new normal. I don't know if we've got our heads around what this new normal actually is going to look like. It's not going to be pleasant.
No. Johnson urged to tighten borders as variants threaten vaccine plan.
Again, this is a link onto the other thing, etc., which is, I think what they're now saying, I think I heard on the news tonight, I think on BBC, were saying that the UK government reckons it's going to be able to give everyone a test as soon as they arrive. So they'll have PCR tests for everyone arriving into the UK. Now, again, people will argue with justification, this is 6, 7, 8 months late.
More than 1,000 bills secretly vetted by Queen and Prince Charles, apparently. The second part of the story that appeared today in The Guardian around the Queen was attempting to keep her fortune a secret, I guess. Is that it?
That I'm not too sure. I presume that when they say bills, they mean pieces of legislation, not something from the gas company. So I don't look at that one.
Don't call me a bully.
But it is this fascination process by which the Queen is still part of the legislative process. I mean, in terms of it's unusual, and that this kind of decisions in council or stuff can be done directly. I mean,
don't call me a bully. Jackie Weaver has her say. She has the authority.
And she gives standing orders. That I think was, I don't know what day went around last week.
Yeah,
and suddenly every WhatsApp group and everything I was in was sending me links to this thing. And I'm going, why would I give a damn about the Handford Parish Council? I watched it on YouTube and I was glued to it. I was stuck to it. It's extraordinary. And this is apparently with some kid who's been recording council meetings, some 17 or 18-year-old.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought
he's been watching these on live feeds because all these things go out in a live feed. And he gives a damn. But he'd recorded this and had then produced this, and people going, sweet and butter God. Because I took me ages to work out what Jackie. Apparently, she was brought in because there had been bullying going on in the council previously, and she had been going in to basically put manners on everybody.
And she didn't. He was saying she didn't have the authority.
So she'd been imposed by, I think, because it's a parish council, so it's only a district, it's only a small little district council. So she'd been put in by the county council or whatever the hell it was.
Really,
but there's your man screaming, "I'm the vice chairman. You don't know the standing orders." I mean, I left Fianna Fáil, and I didn't think that I ever lived through something that happened that I lived through that kind of Fianna Fáil CDC again. And there was one played out in front of me.
Yeah, very familiar. It's a growing risk of attacks as world order crumbles. This is Defence Secretary hides dangers from chemical and biological weapons. You've mentioned that before, actually, in your columns a couple of times.
Well, it's more so the cyber attacks I kind of focus on rather than biological, but it's certainly there. Look, I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, well, Trump faced capital reckoning. They're impeaching a private citizen for the first time, Derek, this week.
Exactly. But again, which is. It's a difficult process. I mean, it's quite clear that the GOP are going to it depends on how many jump ship. Is it 5, 6? Can't see it been much more than that. Who vote for, because what people forget that the phrase impeached means just charged with. He hasn't been found guilty of it yet. That's now the jury that's sitting. They'll find him guilty, but they need to find him guilty by a 2/3 majority. So they'll find him guilty by a simple majority. But apparently, constitutionally, they can then pass a motion banning him from running for re-election on the basis of the second impeachment. And that's where I think it becomes all hot and heavy.
Okay.
But it's amazing how nicer the world has become when you don't have to listen to his every next tweet and comment.
It really has not become nice, I'm telling you.
I didn't say perfect. I just said nicer. Okay. It's a relative term.
Okay. Disgrace. No border virus checks. Jet Express.
Yeah.
Call NHS if you still need a jab over 70.
Yeah. This is part of the UK's process. They're now saying to people, listen, we've missed you. Here's a number. I think it's a free call number, or you go online. But it's literally like a kind of a 4-digit number you ring, and they'll organise to get you vaccinated. So I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, they. By the way, but a point to be made is that this is still only one vaccine. This is still only one jab.
Right.
The UK is leading in terms of getting one jab done, but that was a deliberate strategy. They decided, look, whatever the effectiveness is, it's better to have as many people vaccinated as possible, and then start going back and looking at the second round of vaccines.
Yeah, we're running a little bit out of time, and I want to get to the Star, obviously the UK Stars. It's our favorite destination. But the Financial Times are you ready to follow Australia's lead on making big tech?
Oh yeah, this is becoming an interesting one, which is going after the big tech companies in terms of using news media, etc.
Yeah,
and again, which is like, but this comes back to the old argument: is that Facebook says no, we're merely a platform, we're not a publisher,
and then they censor people
competing with publishers, and
and they're censoring people in the way a publisher would, or they're editing.
Yeah. Now the argument is that they're not editing consistently; they're not editing the volume that they need to. And there's, by the way, it's a big argument in terms of that the amount of strain they're putting on the people who they put in charge of this.
The moderators.
The moderators, that they really are finding this huge because the volume of stuff you have to deal with.
Yeah. Do you know that Halim Ibrahim, the Egyptian, the boy from who was. Do you remember he was held in Egypt? I forget. Ibrahim Halawa.
Oh, part of the Arab Spring.
He was caught up in all that. Yeah, he's a moderator on Facebook at the moment. He was. Yeah, there's an article about him, the stress he's under from the dealing with the moderating.
Oh, it is an extraordinary thing. I mean, basically, when your entire job is just going through this, wading through bile.
Yeah,
that's your entire job, and knowing that if you miss it, that you're probably going to let something happen. I mean, it's extraordinary pressure to put on people who are not exceptionally well paid.
That's my job, basically, every day on Broadsheet.
And that's only the replies to my articles.
I know. Wade through this. Derek, we've run out of time. Sorry. Thank you very much. We'll see now if the live on YouTube thing has worked.